Your shorts, the Archbishop Palmer Buckle has arrived at the Accra International Conference Center to also file past the body of the former President J.J. Rawlings. The interesting thing is some kind of irony that you see there. This is Palmer Buckle, who in the past, or what history has taught us, was critical of the government of J.J. Rawlings. It appears Mr. Rawlings is a man of two parts. You recall that in 1979, he embarked on the June 4th coup and ushered Ghana into the Third Republic. And also in 1981, the PNDC, that was his party, they came into power through a coup d'etat. And the flip side is that in 1992 and 1996, this same man led the country in what the world has come to recognize as democracy, where we saw elections being held, whether or not free or fair. Some people will contest it, but he's credited with leading this country into the Fourth Republic. Now, many don't talk about his achievements. I mean, we all talk about his excesses as a leader, where his rule was perceived as arbitrary. Of course, he was a military man. His rule was perceived as arbitrary, and there were detentions and arrests of any kind of opposing voices. Journalists, they were particularly under siege, so to say, during this regime. We know about journalists like Samuel Atta-Mensah who were detained. We know about Mr. Kweku, Tommy Thompson. We know that the Free Press newspaper, for instance, really had a difficult time during that time. You were not allowed to publish any kind of news or stories that the regime at the time disapproved of. But enter 92, enter 96, J.J. Rawlings is the same person who is credited for the liberalization of the media in Ghana. At the same time, and this is the irony I talk about, at the same time, it was during his time that there was a certain culture of silence and the media couldn't talk about it. This brings us to the Archbishop, the Cape Coast Archbishop Palmer Buckle, who was the editor for the Catholic Standard newspaper, which, when journalists had been forced into exile or had to start reporting about sports, which was less controversial, Palmer Buckle was the person who stood up and criticized the regime, putting his life at risk. Today, he's the same person who led the mass of the late President Rawlings. I'm sure that he's had closure, but these are some of the interesting times this country has gone through under this man we now celebrate, J.J. Rawlings.